Professor Swarn Singh, who teaches at the School of International Studies at the Jawaharlal Nehru University. In a moment, we're also hoping to be joined by Ambassador Meera Shankar and Ambassador Virendra Gupta. Professor Swarn Singh, welcome to Global Lens. Thanks for joining us. This moment is significant at so many levels. As we've reported, this is Abu Dhabi's first Hindu temple. It's a big moment for the Hindu community, for the larger Indian community in the UAE, which is 3.3 million strong. And you would agree with me that this also marks a significant milestone in the bilateral relationship between India and the UAE.
Clearly, Neha, first of all, thanks for having me on your program. This is a clear reflection of India's changing image around the world. Primarily as a country which is rising very rapidly as an economy, but then with the economic power also becoming increasingly capable and having leverages to showcase its ancient traditions, civilization, culture, philosophies, and so on. And that is reflected in the way people of Indian origin and Indian citizens world over feeling increasingly enthusiastic. They're feeling increasingly encouraged to also feel great about their Indian identity, Indian legacies, Indian traditions, Indian heritage. And some of these things existed around the world. For example, Swaminarayan temples is a movement that goes back to 19th century. They have been present world over. But this new enthusiasm and new, I think, capabilities of India and Indians is making this much more a celebration, much more a visibility. And likewise, I must also lay an equal credit on the part of host country here, in this case UAE, just like several other countries that are host or home now to Indian people there, that they have also increasingly from 70s seen the entire Middle East had transformed itself once oil was found, and there was a sudden economic transformation, gradually followed by social transformation and now increasingly political transformation. We can see things changing in UAE and Qatar, in Saudi Arabia, for example, and they have also become increasingly self-confident and receptive to this new India and the new Indian people there who are becoming increasingly conscious of their heritage and want to build more monuments, temples, clubs, and everything that takes for them to feel at home in their new country, new place where they're staying. So this is a continuation of a larger transformation, and I think what is the cherry on top of the cake here is the enormous bilateral bonhomie between the two top leaders that are then able to maximize this acceleration or the pace of change which is visible already happening both in India and in Middle East, and that the fact that top leaders are able to treat each other as brothers, as they repeatedly refer to each other, makes it much more a matter of celebration, much more easily possible to achieve things like that. And I assume that temple in Abu Dhabi will be just one of the several things that we will see happening in coming times as India becomes more visible, more acceptable, more leveraged. And so also people of Indian origin and Indian citizens around the world become much more connected to India and of course much more proud of their own heritage and traditions, willing to showcase and sustain that great tradition that India has had. And therefore, I think there's a whole lot of factors that go together in and this becoming a kind of a milestone, as you mentioned, Neha, in that sense, as one important step, which will be really replicated, I believe, in many other countries, in many other cities. We particularly felt so enthralled by the global Arati, for example, how several temples around the world, in several cities around the dozens and dozens of places, are simultaneously connecting and joining that up. Indian Prime Minister is seen also part that worship in the new temple in Abu Dhabi. So to me, this is an important milestone, but this is part of the larger transformation which will continue to unfold in coming times as well. I am very hopeful things will keep moving in this direction as increasingly we are saying that the Indian juggernaut is now kind of on the move. And more countries are beginning to engage India from that perspective. Abu Dhabi has several, attractions in India. I mean, they have to really now transition from fossil fuel economies to green economies and so on. And in that sense, India is a great partner. India is the fastest growing economy, so good destination for investments. So a whole lot of complementarities exist, which also make this transformation much more possible, much more easy to take it forward to. But I'm sure the credit particularly lies at the top leadership on both sides to build that mutual understanding so that these positive forces which are unfolding on both sides can be made more complementary and maximize benefit and comfort for both sides, both in UAE and larger Middle East and for India. So Indians will feel increasingly connected to India in terms of inter-societal relations. They are part of India's growth story, but they are also part of the growth story of countries in which they are living. For example, Indians are no longer now known in Middle East as only blue collar workers. They are into education sector, into healthcare, into hydrocarbons, into hospitals, so many other high skilled jobs they are increasingly involved in. They are also now seen as a relatively prosperous group of people. And of course, they are a largest community of overseas people in several of these countries, including in UAE. So, in that sense, it's a very interesting story which is unfolding. As Prime Minister said, UAE and India are together writing a new chapter in the future of how global leadership would be unfolding itself to deal with challenges around the world. But for that, I think Indian community particularly has great to celebrate as they become increasingly confident and comfortable in wherever they are, and therefore they will be much more productive in the case of both the host countries advantages and of course advantages for India, which receives very large amounts of remittances every year.
Absolutely. Quite right, sir. This is watching Global Lens on Newsline Live with me, Neha Khanna, and we're discussing Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the UAE on a day when there has been a very significant development both for the Indian community in the UAE and for the India-UAE bilateral relationship, with Prime Minister Modi inaugurating Abu Dhabi's very first Hindu temple, the Bab Swaminarayan Mandir, a grand temple that has been built at a cost of 700 crore rupees. I'm talking to Ambassador Meera Shankar and Professor Swaran Singh about the significance of this bilateral relationship. Professor Swaran Singh, for the benefit of my viewers, I just want to share some important facts vis-a-vis this critical bilateral relationship. Now, remittances we've already discussed from the Gulf countries form a very large part of the total remittance flows into India. Prime Minister Modi's first UAE visit happened in 2015. Since then, he's visited the country 7 times, 7 visits in 8 years. And that particular visit, the very first in 2015, laid the foundation of an expansive bilateral engagement that has now, in fact, acquired multilateral dimensions. For instance, on 10th January this year, the UAE president visited India as the chief guest for the Vibrant Gujarat Summit in Gandhinagar, made a rare speech. Earlier in 2017, the UAE president was in India as the chief guest for the Republic Day function, and also as a special invitee for our G20 summit that was held in September last year. And over the years, the leaderships of the two countries have taken multiple initiatives to take the relationship forward and also significantly to treat each other as equal partners. Now, Professor Swaran Singh, the question I want to ask you is twofold. How far have we come in this bilateral relationship since Prime Minister Modi took that initiative for the first time in 2015? And why do you think this relationship was in limbo for such a long time, perhaps ignored by previous governments?
Let me first say that we have to also look at the history of Middle East. Until the discovery of oil in 1970s, most of these were relatively unknown small towns and clans. It is the discovery of oil that suddenly made the Middle East countries and then some of these clans and kings and emirs so much more influential, capable, powerful, and economically so productive in that sense. So, first of all, And, has to be a different kind of relationship in the initial decades when India became independent. It may be a slight distraction, but that was also a period till 1975, till 71 to be more specific, that Pakistan was world's largest Muslim country, and sort of Pakistan had a relatively greater leverages in engaging some of these countries in Middle East than India had. And of course, over a period of time, things have clearly changed. India is now a very welcome country in all the Middle Eastern countries. In fact, I dare say countries that often don't see eye to eye with each other are all friendly to India, whether it is Egypt or Iran or it is Israel or Saudi Arabia or Qatar or UAE. In fact, the UAE, as you know, has conferred highest civilian award on Indian Prime Minister. So in that sense, there is a whole transformation that has happened on both sides, which creates enormous potential. So yes, UAE, which a decade back was not really the most well-known country in India, is today third largest trading partner of India. That is one part. Seventh largest investor in India. But what is significant is that it is the second largest destination for India's exports. So in that sense, the economic relationship itself it has really grown much stronger. India imports not just gas and oil, but also chemicals, a whole lot of other things. So in that sense, it's a very strong economic relationship. But because of the presence, as you said in the beginning of your program, of almost 3.5 million Indians in UAE alone, and of course about 9 million in the entire region, that societal relationship has suddenly become so much robust and visible because of economic transformation. And that is again contributing to how mutually relations can grow stronger. But we are talking of 7 visits of Indian Prime Minister, 4 visits of the President of UAE. But even his father had come to India, if you remember, in 1999, 2005, and 2012. So relation was there, but the robustness and the potential of relationship has unfolded relatively more rapidly in more recent years, because India has moved from 11th to 5th largest economy, fastest growing among largest economies, and in that sense now almost projected to be at number 3, depending on when you project that figure, which year we are going to be world largest number 3 economy. And any country that wants to look at potential investments, where to go, would look at India as a potential. Therefore, direct investment into India, foreign direct investment into India has been rising very rapidly. And so also Middle East countries transitioning towards away from fossil fuels have to look for other alternatives of building partnerships in technology, in innovation, and so on. So mutuality and the transformation makes the mutual relationship really much more robust and influential. And some of these countries have also, if you remember, have started playing role in geopolitics. So whether it is UAE or Qatar, we often notice that they are not confining themselves to just focusing on their social stability and economic development. They are also going out now and participating in how to influence regional equations and so on. And India, of course, has a whole lot of long tradition, right from post-independence times, to be very actively engaged in global affairs, regional affairs. And that again is building new kind of platforms for partnership to take that partnership forward in many areas. For example, Indian Prime Minister and President of UAE, among other things, did discuss the situation in the Red Sea or what is happening in Gaza. They feel that they are concerned and they can perhaps work in a certain fashion where they can mitigate some of these dangers. And of course, temple itself to me is a reflection of not just religious sentiments, which is of course great and pious and sublime, but we are today talking of building temples with 1,000 years of life. I mean, all of European constructions around the world in colonial states like India were aimed at 100 years kind of imagination. Today, India is trying to build structures, whether it is Ram Temple in Ayodhya or now in Abu Dhabi. We are talking of 1,000 years, not using glass or steel or any other mortar, etc. Pure stone. And I'm told in Abu Dhabi they have put in 300 plus sensors to monitor seismic activities or temperature fluctuations. So it's a modernization of the whole architecture itself, other than, of course, taking forward India's culture. So one can look at these things from multiple perspectives. And I think this is why I'm saying this is a transformation which is going to unfold in coming years, and we will see many more of such things happening in many more other countries. And I think that is a whole new mood that Indian people around the world now are showcasing, connecting with India. India is talking of 1947 now. And that is, we are not looking at 1 year, 2 year, 5 years now. Indian leadership is talking of 1947 as the next target and becoming a developed country by that time. So the whole mood is different. I think that really sort of has a spin-off impact on Indians world over, and of course to some extent on people where they live from other nationalities. One notices that one after another there are anecdotes being told on social media and on television how people of other nationalities are also becoming increasingly curious as to what is happening and what is happening and what impact that would have. In that sense, increasing curiosity and understanding of India, the way India is unfolding, is also becoming much more visible in that sense, whether it is a common man in the street or it is, a whole set of spectrum of world leaders. There's a global attention that is coming India's way. And in that sense, the global Aarti, I think, was a good reflection of that kind of global connect of India.
Absolutely. Very